last night from your perspective, being in that room? I want to get feedback for the audience. You were there.
You know, a couple of impressions. Number one, he has more energy. He's done more things. He is present and alive and around, and just he's every American knows what he's doing, and he demonstrated that in a very quick time period since inauguration. Not only has he gotten to work, but he's making changes. I mean, just think about the border. Think about the energy. I represent the Permian Basin in Midland, Texas. I mean, just think about all the things he's doing, the fact that we're going to pass a big, beautiful bill, that the House is running with his agenda. We'll see what the Senate is doing, and hopefully we all come together. I think we will. But another takeaway, you know, I stood there for 4 straight years with Joe Biden. I stood there and watched as our country was being destroyed. But you know what I did? I stood up for the president when he walked in the chamber. I respected the office of the president. I couldn't stand what he was doing to the country. And I was really disappointed at the pettiness of our Democrat friends, the pettiness that they can't even stand up. Think about this kid from Texas, DJ, who was sworn in as a Secret Service agent last night because he wants to be a cop. Think about the way that President Trump is inspiring young kids like DJ to do things that are amazing in our country, and Democrats couldn't even stand to clap for him. They couldn't stand when Trump said, we're going to sign the Take It Down Act, where you have deep fakes that are ruining young women's lives by putting their face on pornographic images, and not a single Democrat could stand up. You know what? It's really sad. They're sad and hateful people right now, and unfortunately I think America sees through it, and President Trump is driving with an agenda to make this country great.
Oh, Congressman, I think it's a good thing that people do see through it more. And while I wish it wasn't so, in my, I guess, more Pollyannish view, the fact is we need to see the left on full display for who and what they are. Speaking of Texas, and of course further east in Houston, the murder of Joycelyn Nungaray, and the president designating federal land in her honor. The Democrats cannot stand for that because they stood for Joe Biden and policies that led, you know, hundreds of thousands, tens of millions into the United States with no vetting.
It's shameful. The fact that they couldn't stand up for Mrs. Nungaray with the brutal murder of her 12-year-old daughter, Jocelyn, especially after he honors the family, honors her memory, signs this wildlife refuge into law under her name, and they can't even honor that. You know, take away the partisanship. They can think whatever they want on the border, but this is a mother who's grieving, and it's really sad. They must be filled with a lot of hate, and I think we're just seeing who they really are as people. I mean, you know, which is a sad display. But guess what? The president every single day is doing things like that common sense will prevail. History will write this playbook, and the history of this will be written correctly. That we were the ones that brought this back, that President Trump had the vision, and he was the one who honored, whether it was Laken Riley's mother and sister who were there, the Nungaray family who was there, or DJ, the young kid with cancer. He's doing the right thing.
Let's move to another topic. And in this sense, or in a similar sense, last night the president announced that one of the terrorists who murdered our 13 service members, injured hundreds, and frankly killed so many more over there, was being brought back and has been extradited for trial here in the United States. You're chair of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, and of course terrorists worldwide, whether it be an FTO or an Islamist terrorist organization, they're using the internet, they're using online networks, and not just the dark web. They actually are recruiting through various and very clever methods using the internet.
Well, you're right. I actually held a hearing on this yesterday. I've chaired the subcommittee now for several years. Counterterrorism, me being a veteran myself, having flown combat missions in the Middle East myself against ISIS and against some of the worst organizations on earth. I'm very worried about it, very worried about Joe Biden's open border policy. For several years, we were told by Joe Biden and his lackeys that the most extreme threat to our country was white supremacists, the lone wolf actors. And we said, you know what? We don't agree with your facts. We think that terrorism in its traditional form is still a problem. And guess what? Christopher Wray has now said that. He has now said that it actually is the radicalization from traditional terror groups online. And so we held the hearing. And I was actually able to bring Democrats over to this hearing and have a reasonable conversation about what we can do. And unfortunately, we saw this unfold in New Orleans recently, where 13 people were tragically killed by somebody who pledged allegiance to ISIS. More has to be done to understand why this radicalization is happening. But it is, make no mistake, happening from traditional Islamic jihadist groups in the Middle East. And that's why we continue to be very worried with the open border policies that have devastated our country.
Now, AI is an issue in this discussion as well. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. Can we use AI, and considering that arguably one of the smartest men, the Einstein of our time, is right there next to the president and working with the administration, maybe that helps as well with some of those brilliant people he's brought in. But how can we use AI, or can we use AI to counter the AI threat from generative AI?
You're right. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. And generative AI, as our panel of experts told us yesterday, is an issue. They are using it, they being the terrorists, and those organizations are using it to recruit. They're using it to radicalize. If they see somebody that's on the verge, they'll use it to push them over the edge and have this weird fantasy with terrorism. And yes, it can be used to identify trends on social media, on other platforms. But I think what we heard from the panel was very interesting, that while it can be used to probably funnel in and highlight examples where we could have an issue, there still is a need for human in the loop. And that analysis, the understanding, dissecting what they're doing, it was pretty interesting to hear from this panel of experts who've done this for 20 to 25 years. They also mentioned, guess what? They're communicating with emojis. It's a whole new language. So instead of using Arabic or any other language, they're actually online communicating with symbols back to very prehistoric style communication. So that's where that human in the loop is very important. And you can train AI to do that, but you still need a human to help. So this is a tough problem. We want to get ahead of it. That's why we held the hearing. I am very worried about kids, especially those in vulnerable situations that could be, we see this with gangs. We don't want those vulnerable kids to then succumb to the pressures of radicalization, especially Islamic jihadist terrorism.
Well, it's an august interview with Congressman August Pfluger from Texas's 11th District. And on a very serious note, as chair of the Subcommittee on Counterterrorism and Intelligence, this is very important work that has to be done now. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'll say hi to my friends at AIPAC who are always on this issue, always pressing to help get this message out there, to stop anti-Semitism, to stop terrorism, and that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you, Congressman.